Good evening and welcome into this Campus Weather Service live broadcast. We're tracking severe weather moving through the Midwest at this hour. I'm Tyler Hughes, joined by Luke Snyder at the desk with me. Luke, there's a particularly dangerous situation ongoing in terms of severe weather for many folks in the Midwest at this hour.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the southern Midwest and south central portion of the United States is really experiencing a lot of these severe weather threats and severe weather watches and warnings. We're going to be taking a look at some of the further ingredients kind of making way for this storm system and kind of developing. And as you can see here on our severe weather outlook graphic, Oklahoma is really in that red area, really going to be experiencing those moderate severe weather outlook warnings. So as you can see, we're going to be experiencing a very widespread area of severe weather. And Thomas Witt at the Walls and have a few more details on that specifically.
Hi, I'm student meteorologist Thomas Witt, going to go quite in depth here with our severe weather outlook for the night. As you can see, there is a bullseye right in central Oklahoma in red. That indicates a moderate risk for severe weather, but central Oklahoma is not the only place we'll be looking at tonight. As you can see, it extends all the way into the Ohio River Valley and as far south as central Texas. So let's look at what we can expect later tonight. So as you can see, right now we are looking at the wind outlook. And here in this red, you can see a 30% wind outlook. And that can be expected for severe winds over 58 miles per hour. Here in this hatched risk, that is for significant winds. So that's an even greater chance for severe winds tonight. Can't be ruled out though, outside in the yellow, 15%, that is still considerable. Getting into the hail outlook, this is what can be really damaging tonight. Looking at this bullseye, that's kind of coinciding with that moderate risk that you can see over central Oklahoma. We have a 45% hatched risk for that area. So you can expect significant damage from hail tonight in central Oklahoma. But like I said, it extends up into Missouri and Illinois, metropolitan St. Louis, a big city that can expect some hail damage tonight. 30%. 15% extends all the way down towards central Texas and all the way as far east as the Ohio River Valley. Lastly, we'll take a look at the tornado outlook. That's usually what you expect when you hear severe weather. As you can see, we have a 10% hatched risk extending from southern central Oklahoma all the way into western Illinois. 10% outlook hatched, that's a significant risk that can be expected for tornadoes tonight. Now, getting into what is causing this severe weather, let's look at the wind speeds. As you can see, we have a line right here where the wind speeds are changing. I will get into that soon, but let's talk about the winds in general. As you can see, we have a southerly wind coming up from the Gulf, bringing warm, moist air into the region. As you can see to the north, we have a northerly, cold, dry wind that is mixing with that a southerly, moist wind, causing a textbook setup for severe weather in the spring in the Central Plains. As you can see to our west, we have a westerly wind causing to shift that precipitation farther east. And looking at our dew points now, you will see that this is a dry line. What was I talking about when those wind speeds were changing? Well, it can be associated with this dry line as well as a cold front. What is a dry line? Well, you can kind of tie it into a cold front. A cold front is a sharp gradient in temperatures, and a dry line is a sharp gradient in dew points. As you can see right here in those purple and pink colors, that indicates a more humid air mass. You can see 68 is the dew point in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Over into Lubbock, though, you're only sitting at 43, much drier air in the area. That is helping to lift the air in the area to get those storms going. We have that moisture, we have lift, we have winds, all the ingredients you need for severe weather. Taking a look at the radar live right now, you will see storms firing up along that dry line. Usually associated with dry lines, you will see discrete cells, and that's what we're looking at for the most part. Right here over Dallas, you can see a cell going over. As you go up more north towards Missouri, you will see a system kind of more developed and more mature, and so that will have more of a wind risk with it, but these more discrete cells that you're seeing over Texas and over Oklahoma will have more of the hail and tornado risk as well as the wind on top of that. Now looking at our future weather, that line that was over in central Texas is expected to form more into a squall line of sorts, and that will enhance the wind risk as we go later in the night. This will move into over the Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois area and move into the Ohio River Valley as well as Indiana overnight. Now, taking a look at the severe weather alerts we have currently going on, I will be talking about watches right now. In the pink, these are severe thunderstorm watches. You can see a smaller one if you squint your eyes over in southeastern Kansas, as well as central Texas. There's another severe thunderstorm watch. And then in the yellow, this is a tornado watch. This extends anywhere from Illinois all the way down to northern Texas. Now, you may be asking yourself, what is the difference between a watch and a warning? Well, I am here to explain it. A tornado, and in this case, we will be talking about a tornado, but the same rules apply between tornado and severe weather. Now, a watch, conditions are favorable for tornadoes or severe weather in general to form. So you should be prepared, be on the lookout, and tuning into your local news station for any severe weather warnings. A warning, that means take action, get away from windows, go to the lowest interior room in your house. A tornado is spotted or indicated by radar. When I talk about indication by radar, that means rotation. And Tyler Hughes, who is on radar right now, will get into that. Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas. And yeah, we're tracking the radar right now. And Luke, we have one tornado warning that's currently ongoing, and we want to get right to that on the radar. Let's check it out. This is just north of the St. Louis metro. The warning itself actually includes the city of St. Louis, to the far northern part of the city of St. Louis, as well as St. Louis County as well, east central St. Louis County, and is in effect for only about the next few minutes or so. It expires at 1/4 the hour here. You can see the brunt of that thunderstorm that could have produced a tornado is now moving out of that tornado warning polygon. We can quickly look at the velocity product here. If it wants to pop up, it does not want to pop up, as a lot of times happens during these situations. But you can tell that, for the most part, the severe aspect, the tornadic aspect of the storm has now moved out of the tornado warning polygon, and so now it's up to the National Weather Service, and the folks at the National Weather Service St. Louis will either extend this tornado warning if they believe that the tornado threat persists with this particular cell here, or they will extend the severe thunderstorm warning a lot of times with what's called a tornado possible tag, meaning they think there's a chance that this could produce a tornado, but they're not exactly sure. I just want to really quickly flip here, and we'll see if we can get the velocity to show up. There it is. And basically what this is showing is the different winds that are within the cell. Red is wind that's going away from the radar site. The radar site in this case is to the west of where our tornado warning is. Green is wind that's going toward that radar site. And so when we see red colors and green colors that are really in close together, that to us indicates the possibility that the storm could be rotating on radar. And so the brighter the colors are, the faster those wind speeds are. And so when we zoom in here, you can see it's really not that bright at the moment, and this storm has diminished quite a bit as this tornado warning gets to be near the point where it will be expiring within the next couple of minutes. But you can still see here, if I point it out, there is still a little bit of rotation right in there where those reds and greens are touching. And so there's a possibility still, as this tornado warning remains in effect, that this storm could spin up at any time. And a lot of times what happens with these tornadic thunderstorms is they tend to cycle, right? Sometimes the rotation will weaken and then it'll start to strengthen back up again. And that's the life cycle of a thunderstorm in this case. So although we're very fortunate, especially near a very populated area, the city of Metro St. Louis, that we haven't received any reports of a tornado yet, it's still important to be very vigilant with this storm. I do want to take a look at some of the storm reports that we have received as a result of this storm, though. We'll pop over here and we could put a query out on some of these. You can see this person was unsure of the true size of the hailstones, but was confident that they were larger than quarters. So 1-inch size hail reported there as well. You can see we can pull some other hail reports. This spotter measured 2-inch size hail at his home. So you think 2 inches worth of hail diameter falling from the sky. That's a pretty significant hail that could do some damage. There's also some wind damage reported here. You can see a thunderstorm wind gust reported as the storm moved through within the last hour or so. So the storm reports are continuing at this hour. Like I said, we're fortunate we haven't had a tornado report yet, and we'll keep a particular eye on that. But at this hour, this is the only tornado warning that remains in effect. We're going to turn the storm reports off, and we'll zoom out quickly, and we'll take a look at some of the other severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect. This one in particular is showing signs that it could produce a tornado at some point here in the future as well. I just want to really zoom in on this warning here, and we'll read it. It's for portions of south central Montgomery County, northwestern Franklin County, and southwestern Warren County here in Missouri. And it's starting to develop that hook shape that is kind of reminiscent of some tornadoes on radar as well. The hail threat is observed here as well. National Weather Service noting with this severe thunderstorm warning that hail has been spotted that's over 1.5 inches in diameter. So again, that's pretty significant hail with also wind gusts of 60 miles per hour or more. So it's important to point out, Luke, that even though not all of these storms have tornado warnings associated with them, the straight line wind gusts can still be a pretty big factor.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of these systems can develop very quickly and very rapidly within a matter of minutes. So I think it's really important to kind of take a look at some of this radar, minute by minute, play by play. A lot of this can really develop within a matter of, like I said, minutes. So it's really important to kind of be aware and be weather alert of some of the warnings and watches going on. Like you said, that tornado we were just looking at, within minutes it kind of diminishes and starts to weaken out. So it's definitely important to be alert and conscious of what's going on and make sure to tune into some of those local stations and reports.
It's very true. I do want to take a look at two more larger severe thunderstorm warnings that are in effect right now. This is north of Springfield, Missouri. These are until half past the hour, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, 8:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. So if you know anyone in these areas, let them know to seek shelter. Again, I'll turn the storm reports back on here, and we can take a look at what some of the National Weather Service trained spotters are reporting. 1-inch tree limbs broken, shingles broken off as part of the thunderstorm wind damage as the squall line moved through here. Again, this just north of Springfield, Missouri. We can also take a look at this hail report here. Took over a 12 to 14-inch tree with hail size of 1 inch on this thunderstorm as well. So this thunderstorm warning is also ongoing at this hour. There are also some severe thunderstorm warnings in the Oklahoma region, some of those in effect until 8 p.m. Central Time. That's 9 p.m. here on the East Coast. And there's also some reports of some hail just to the north of the Dallas metro area as well. So we'll zoom in on that really quick, and we'll turn on storm reports because I had a producer in my ear let me know that there was possibly some high wind gusts reported, or strong hail, or large hail, I guess, reported with this. Let's see if we can find that. There's 1-inch hail there near Dallas, 1.3-inch half-dollar size hail. I'm hearing reports that there were up to 2-inch size hail associated with that cell as well. So that's something else to consider, especially with this. So, in the Dallas metro, we're seeing some of that as well. In these severe thunderstorm warnings, these just to the north of Oklahoma City are looking particularly strong as well, with the indication that some of these storms could be starting to spin up. Let me switch to the velocity here quickly, and we can also look at. Okay, let's zoom into this severe thunderstorm warning really quick, and you can take a look. See how those reds and greens are really bright up next to each other? That indicates that this storm is starting to rotate a bit, and I'm gonna read this here. Yep. There is looks like it could be a tornado possible tag there, or maybe not. But if not, even if there isn't a tornado warning, it's always important to keep in mind that these thunderstorms are unpredictable at times, and they can spin up at any time. The National Weather Service is very closely monitoring these. And so with a tight couplet like this, where you see those reds and those greens are really close together, I wouldn't be surprised if this storm could spin up a tornado within the next half hour or so, or at least a funnel cloud or something along those lines as well. So that's a little bit of what's going on around the country right now. We have multiple severe thunderstorm warnings throughout the state of Oklahoma, as well as Missouri, where I do want to check in real quick on that tornado warning that we were covering a bit earlier on in the live stream when I first started the live broadcast. That tornado warning has since been dropped by the National Weather Service. They say there is no longer a tornado threat associated with that storm. The severe thunderstorm warning there continues until 8 o'clock Central Time. That's 9 p.m. here on the East Coast. All right, Luke, a lot going on in terms of severe thunderstorm warnings right now across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. The system is moving quite fast. It's beginning to make its way into northern Oklahoma and southern Missouri. And like you said, a lot of this is really dependent on what the National Weather Service is producing. And a lot of it is due to the reports that many people are, sending into the National Weather Service. Like, people are sending in 1 to 1.5 inch diameters of hail, sending in debris and other kinds of power outages, sorts in their area.
Right. The National Weather Service's spotter network is such a huge asset in times like this as well, because not only do they get reports from emergency managers, law enforcement, they also have a network of trained spotters called Skywarn spotters that are weather enthusiasts, some people on the YouTube that are streaming right now, you may want to learn how to become a Skywarn spotter. And they hold trainings for that throughout the year, and they're an invaluable resource throughout events like this. So we're going to go ahead and take a break here. The Campus Weather Service live broadcast will be right back, continuing coverage of severe storms ongoing in the Midwest.
Welcome back to our live. I'm Caitlin Patuchak here with the Campus Weather Service, joined by Luke Snyder, and we're here to give you a more detailed update on the tornado threat covering much of the central plains and lower Ohio River Valley at this time. But I want to pop right over to the radar because we did have a tornado warning pop up just north of Tulsa, Oklahoma. If we take a look here, you can see that it's currently over Hominy. So if you are in Hominy, it is important, like Thomas said earlier in the forecast, to get inside, get to that innermost portion of your home, basement, utility room, innermost bathroom. If you're in your tornado shelter right now, that is the exact place that you want to be. Let's take a look at exactly how fast this is moving and when it's going to reach different areas. So in the next 38 minutes or so, it should propagate all the way over towards Barnsdall. So that is something to keep an eye on here. But I do want to take a closer look at the velocity. Like Tyler mentioned earlier, that'll show us where the wind is heading to and coming from on our radar, and it is radar indicated. So currently we do see a strong pairing of red and green. So I want to remind you that red is wind and air that is moving away from the radar, which is situated off to our southeast at this time, and green is wind that is moving toward the radar. So it doesn't look that we have a super strong couplet per se, but we do have a very strong shift in wind. And in these scenarios, it's very easy for a tornado to spin up, especially if it has a couple of different things, especially moisture and a sharp change in moisture from that dry line, like Thomas mentioned in his forecast earlier. And I want to continue to talk about our correlation coefficient as well. What we're seeing here, I can zoom in just a little bit more, is we're seeing some brighter colors pop up with that tornado warning just north of Hominy, and that can indicate something that's called a debris ball, or a strong collection of debris that can oftentimes be associated with a tornado. So if you remember from the movies, from Twister, tornadoes can pick up a lot of debris, pieces of plywood, different things off the ground, something that might be lying around, trash cans, and it collects it all within that tornado. So that's what this brighter signature is showing us just north of Hominy here on the leftmost side of this tornado warning. And that can indicate debris could be flying around. So it's very important, if you are in these areas, to get away from your windows, like I mentioned, to that innermost portion of your home, so that if something does hit your window and glass breaks in, you're not going to be in the way of any danger. If you do have some loved ones in this area as well, it is important to let them know that there could be some kind of danger. They are probably hearing tornado sirens at this time, but they might not be. So it's important to check in if you have any loved ones in this area. Let's pop back over to our reflectivity as well. And so I'm just getting word now from our producers that our tornado is radar confirmed. We're still waiting for updates, or visuals, excuse me, of this tornado to confirm that it is actually touching the ground. So radar can sometimes confirm a tornado. We'll see a strong signature of something on velocity or in our correlation coefficient that can give us as meteorologists an idea that a tornado could happen or is starting to spin up. But it is important for civilians to report tornado warnings or hail sizes, or if they see a tornado touching the ground. That's really important for us as meteorologists. There's only so much that our instruments can show us. Our instruments are very good at showing us a lot of different things associated with these storms, but it is ultimately up to civilians to give us updates of what's happening on the ground. And if we take a closer look here, we can actually see a bit of a hook start to form just to the east of Winona here. It had just popped up north of Hominy, and that is where our tornado is most likely located at this point in time. This tornado warning is valid until 8 p.m. Eastern time, or 8 p.m. Central time, 9 p.m. Eastern time. So if you are tuning in from the East Coast, but you do have family that's out in the Central time zone, this is valid until 8 p.m. for them. Let's take another look at our velocity to see if that's updated at all. And if we do take a closer look here, we will see that we are starting to get a bit more of a tilt. You see how the velocity has tilted a little bit more to the side. That's indicating that that couplet is beginning to grow, and that tornado is likely strengthening at this time. And that is where we have radar indicated tornado warning associated. Like I mentioned, this tornado warning is expected to propagate toward Ramona in the next half hour or so. That's about 26 miles east. It'll also impact places like Barnsdall and Avant. So it's important that if you are in these areas to get to the innermost portion of your home, like I'd mentioned earlier. And we are getting another velocity update from our radar right now, and you can certainly see that we are getting a really solid couplet starting to form there, and that's where you can see that red and the green starting to twist around each other a little bit. Like I mentioned, green is wind that's moving toward the radar, red is wind that's moving away from the radar. So we are seeing a strengthening system at this time. Let's see if our correlation coefficient will show us anything. And we are seeing a bit of a hook signature there popping up on our correlation coefficient. Those brighter blotches of yellow are indicating potential flying debris. So like I said, make sure to get away from those windows and get inside if you can. If you are outside, if you have a storm shelter, get to that. You don't want to be outside taking videos of this event, posting pictures. The most important thing right now is your safety. So get yourself to a safe space. If you are able to report what's going on, if you saw a tornado on the ground, if you saw hail on the ground, it is important for you to report that. I'm going to take a look at some of the details here, see if I can pull anything up on my radar. We are looking at hail associated on the northern end of this tornado warning of about 1.75 inch hail. I'm getting word that in Springfield there's 1.75 inch hail. I believe that's where I was on the radar just a moment ago. And that is associated with this system. We can pop back over to our reflectivity and take a closer look at that. What we're seeing right now is that couplet is still strengthening as we move through this evening. And like I said, this tornado warning is valid until 8 p.m. Central Time. And our correlation coefficient is still showing us that debris is picking up. And we are getting hail reports of about 1.75 inches associated with this system. So it is important, like I said, get inside, stay inside. This hail could damage things such as your car or anything that you might have outside. Don't worry about that right now. The most important thing here is your safety. Let's pop back over to our reflectivity and see if there's any other warnings or watches that we're missing at this moment in time. A wider look out shows us we're not seeing any other tornado warnings, so we're going to keep our focus on this system just north of Tulsa. I'm getting word that there's something in Springfield. I'm assuming that's Springfield, Missouri, but that might be also somewhere in north central Oklahoma as well. That I'm getting word that that is in Missouri. So let's pop over to Springfield, Missouri for just a moment. Sorry for those technical difficulties. Yeah, just north of Springfield, Missouri here. We're getting reports of 1.75 inch hail associated with this storm. It's under a severe thunderstorm warning until 8 p.m. Central Time. So let's take a closer look at this system. Let's get in a little bit closer here. We are getting some reports of hail. So let's take a look at the velocity and correlation coefficient associated with this storm as well. Our velocity is showing us that we are having that strong shift in wind direction. Like I said, red is wind moving away from the radar, green is wind moving toward the radar. We're not seeing any couplets sticking out at this time. However, we are seeing a pretty steep shift sharp shift in our wind directions, and that could spin up into something. Like I mentioned earlier, you never know when these are going to spin up. So this could spin up into a tornado or just a strong thunderstorm as we move on. But what we do know is that it is producing hail. That means that the cloud is very, very high up, very tall up into the atmosphere, and it's able to spin up this hail time and time again so that it gets bigger and bigger, that when it does fall, it is very heavy, and it can hurt you and damage your cars, as I mentioned earlier. So even though you're not in a tornado watcher warning at the moment, it is important that you do get inside if you are in this area just north of Springfield, Missouri. Yeah, let's see where this storm is moving to as we move through the next half hour or hour or so. It's looking like in the next half hour it should get up to Urbana, but it'll also move through Huron, Adonis, and over to Lewisburg as well. So this is a very fast-moving thunderstorm. So this is very wind-driven based on the radar and the velocity signature. So those winds are going to be high. We talked about high winds at the beginning of this forecast, and that is going to be a significant threat for much of our area. If you're not seeing tornadoes, you are probably experiencing high winds or hail at this time. But yeah, as I mentioned, 7:45 it'll reach Huron, 7:49 Adonis, 7:55 Huckabee, and it'll reach Nemo at 8 p.m. This is all in Central Time, so if you add 1 hour to that, you'll be in Eastern Time. Like I mentioned, if you are in Eastern Time and you have loved ones here that are in Central Time, let them know that it is important for them to get inside and stay away from this threat in the near future. But let's zoom back out and take a wider look at things, see if there's anything that we're missing at this moment. We do have another thunderstorm warning associated to the east and to the northwest or northeast, as well. We are getting some hail reports up near Jefferson City, but there are no thunderstorm watches or warnings on these. So these are likely older, probably from these cells that are closer over to the Illinois-Missouri border over near St. Louis. We did just have a system move through there. That was tornado warned. That has since been downgraded, and there's actually no warning associated with that storm as well, besides a flash flood warning. That's over Hillsborough and Boyd Ark, and that is the system that had that tornado warning on it earlier. We do have a severe thunderstorm warning, though, located just to the west of St. Louis, valid until Monday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So let's take a closer look at this one and time this one out as well, since it is moving towards St. Louis. As I mentioned, let's take a look at our velocity here. Our radar is going to need a second to update, but it is looking like there is a slight wind shift. If you see the pink versus the red there, that indicates that there is a slight wind shift associated with that. But let's just focus on timing this out for us as we move into the next couple of minutes. So if we take a look at our cone here, that'll time us all out. It's expected to reach O'Fallon in the next half hour or so. So by 7:45, it'll reach Innsbrook, 7:58 Wentzville. 8:02 is when it'll start to hit Lake St. Louis. That's on the western side of St. Louis there, northwestern side of that. 8:08, it'll reach O'Fallon. That is, again, on the northwestern side of St. Louis. So it is important to keep an eye on this storm, not only because it could develop like any other thunderstorm into a tornado, but there are a lot of people that live in this area. So if you do have loved ones that live there, let them know that there is something potentially dangerous coming their way, and to at least get inside and await further instruction. But we're going to pop back over to the tornado warning in Oklahoma in just a second here to get myself situated. I'm going to head back on over. The tornado warning is situated just north of Tulsa, still valid until 8 p.m. We're going to take a closer look at this storm, and then we'll get another update or another brief rundown on the setup that we have currently. So let's take a quick look at all of this. Reflectivity does show that we are seeing a hook start to develop on that storm, and let's look at our velocity here as well. Yeah, that couplet is strengthening, not too much from what it was, but we are still waiting to see if there are any updates of a tornado on the ground. Let me take a look at my other radar here just to see. There are reports of hail of about 1/2 inch in this area, so winds are starting to pick up as well in the 50 and 60 mile per hour range. And let's take a look at our correlation coefficient as well. A little bit less of a debris signature than we were seeing before. However, we are still getting a slight correlation coefficient signature, like I mentioned earlier, those brighter colors on that correlation coefficient graphic that could indicate debris being picked up from the ground, larger debris such as plywood that's lying around or a trash can or small buckets. Things could be picked up by a storm, even just by a thunderstorm with some of the updrafts or upward moving air associated with that storm. But I do want to bring us back to our meteorologist, Filippo Formica, here in the studio for a more detailed update on our current setup, just in case you're joining us sometime partway through the live broadcast here. So I want to send it over to Filippo in a moment.
Thanks, Caitlin. Let's take a look at why Oklahoma really is the bullseye for this storm system. We're seeing a moderate risk. That is a level 4 out of 5 issued by the Storm Prediction Center in northern Texas and central Oklahoma. We have an enhanced risk extending from Cincinnati all the way down towards Dallas. That's a 3 out of 5 risk issued by the Storm Prediction Center. So let's go through all the different parts of this storm system as we track this severe weather threat. First off is those winds, and we have been receiving wind damage reports out of Oklahoma. That is at the very beginning of this 30 to 45% risk area of those severe winds. That is over 58 miles an hour to warrant a severe thunderstorm warning for wind. We also have the significant weather threat in this hatched area right here. That includes St. Louis as well as portions just north and east of Tulsa and extending in through Indiana. Those are areas where you could exceed those 58 to 60 mile an hour winds, and that's areas where you could see severe and extensive wind damage. We're also going to be seeing an extensive hail risk with that significant severe threat, which includes hail excess of, I believe, a half an inch from all the way down towards San Antonio and Austin, all the way up into Indiana. We have a 45 to 60% risk of hail in that bullseye area of Oklahoma, as well as a 30 to 45% risk extending from Dallas up into Illinois. Now let's get to what we've been tracking today, those tornadoes. According to the Storm Prediction Center, this bullseye for tornadoes is in central and eastern Oklahoma, extending through northwest Arkansas, southeast Kansas, and much of the central portion of Missouri, including St. Louis. That also includes a significant severe threat in this hatched area. These are areas where we could see an EF2 or greater tornado form. So if you are in any of these areas, make sure you stay weather aware. Keep your phone alerts on the emergency alert system so that anytime there is a tornado warning in your area, you will be alerted on your phone to get to a safe spot. We also have a 5 to 10% risk that includes Cincinnati as well as most of the suburbs just north of Dallas. We also have some risk areas just to the southeast of Wichita in Kansas. Otherwise, we're going to be focusing on this main bullseye here, but anywhere on this map here, anywhere highlighted, could see a tornado form with this severe weather threat. So let's go through the reasons why we're seeing these storms pop up where they are. We have a cold front situated here from Oklahoma up in through Kansas. You can see the winds on the backside of that cold front coming from the north, as well as we also have a dry line setting up here in portions of southern Oklahoma and Texas. You can see on the back end of that, those winds coming out of the west. Out in front, we have those winds pulling that Gulf moisture, that warm, moist air needed for thunderstorms to form out of the Gulf. And we'll be seeing that here with our dew points. Typically, we're seeing 50 to 60 as our limit here for dew points for those storms to form, but we have excess of 60 here. Oklahoma City is 67, Fort Worth and Dallas, you're at 68. 60s across the board, even 73 in Austin. This is helping these storms to get that moisture to form. And with that dry line right here, you can see that rapid change in dew point. You're seeing those dew points drop drastically, and that is where you could see some instability, some lift in this area, and that cold front as well in portions of Kansas and Oklahoma. So taking a look at our radar again, this is the overall picture right now. You can see those severe thunderstorms really starting to line up and train together in portions of the Ohio River Valley, as well as that cold front starting to set up in Oklahoma, where we saw that tornado warning, as well as along that dry line here extending down from Dallas to the east of San Angelo. So these are all areas that could be seeing tornadoes tonight due to the multitude of factors here. And as we move to the future here, we have this storm system kind of forming into a line of thunderstorms before pushing off to the east, where tomorrow we could see this threat shift into the eastern Ohio River Valley. And with that, I'm going to kick it back to Caitlin and Luke at the desk.
Thanks, Filippo. I do want to take a look at that storm that we were just looking at just north of St. Louis, and we are getting a tornado possible signature on some of our radar products here. So there's no tornado warning on this yet. However, there are severe thunderstorm warnings on this, and it is that little hook that you're seeing just to the west of Buffalo there, just on that left side of Buffalo. And this is where we were seeing some of those hail reports of up to an inch and 3/4. So let's take a deeper dive as to what this cell is showing us. in terms of our velocity as well. Like I mentioned earlier, what we're looking for in these potential tornadic cells is a velocity couplet. So where our reds and greens are kind of twisted around each other, and it's kind of covered up here by this warning, but if I can zoom in just a little bit, you'll be able to see it. Just south of Lewisburg, just northwest of Buffalo, you're seeing that red and that green start to wrap around each other, and that is what's likely indicating that there could be a tornado possible with this system. Let's look at our correlation coefficient as well, see if it's picking up any kind of debris. I'm also getting reports that we are seeing hail of about 3.5 inches indicated from RadarScope. That's our other radar product that we're using at this moment. And our producers on my earpiece are telling me that there are hail reports of up to 4 inches. So it's very imperative. Oh, and it looks like there is a tornado warning that has popped up on this cell. So we can see that that hook there is what we call a hook echo that's oftentimes associated with a tornado warning. And in this case, there is a tornado warning. So just to review, if you do have a tornado warning, you want to get to the innermost portion of your home. A bathroom, a utility room, get away from those windows. If you have a storm shelter, use it. If it's going to take you a while to get there, don't worry about it. Just get to a very secure spot in your home. And let's take a couple of steps through just to see what this cell is doing at this moment in time. So we were just looking at our velocity here, really twisting around each other, that red and that blue, red moving away from the radar, green moving toward the radar. And I want to look at our correlation coefficient as well, showing that there is a fairly strong signature here associated with our tornado warning or tornado warned cell. We're still waiting for some reports to confirm that there is a tornado on the ground, but it is radar indicated at this moment in time. So let's go into the details of this storm and time things out for us as well, if I can get the details on that pulled up here in just a moment. It looks like that storm is moving directly eastward at about, I'm trying to get the speed here as well. It is moving eastward, and so let's try and time this out as best we can. It's about 50 miles per hour. I was looking for that wind report associated with this storm. So let's get our cone up here. One moment here while I deal with the tech. So it looks like if we time this out over the next hour or so, it's going to move from Buffalo, where it's located right now. So if you are in Buffalo, you need to get inside to the innermost portion of your home, move toward Lebanon and into Hazel Green. But we are going to go to a break in just a moment here. We'll be back in a little bit with some more updates on this tornado event.
Welcome back to the Campus Weather Service live forecast. As you can see here on our radar, we have some more updates as some of the system kind of makes its way through. Tyler, you have a bit of a closer outlook on some of the tornadoes and thunderstorms that are going to be developing. If you want to talk a little bit more in detail about some of the conditions that are going to be going on and some of those ingredients that are making way for those severe weathers making its way through.
Thanks, Luke. Yeah, we have 2 tornado warnings that are ongoing in the Midwest that I want to talk about right now. And we also have one going on just south of Dallas, Texas as well. We're not able to get the radar data up for that area right now, but I do want to note, if you know anyone that's just south of Dallas in the Joshua, Texas area or Lillian, Texas area, let them know that they need to be in a safe place. That's the lowest level of your home or business or whatever building you're in on an interior room. And of course, we don't want you to be driving on the roads when you're under a tornado warning. But let's take a look at the 2 tornado warnings that are on your screen right now. We'll zoom into this one first. This is northeast here of Springfield, Missouri. Lebanon, Missouri is the primary city here. You are now under this tornado warning, and wow, when we talk about a hook echo, Luke, check that out. That is a pretty classic signature of a tornado on a radar like this. And basically what you're seeing with that hook echo is you're seeing precipitation, rainfall, literally being wrapped around the circulation by the rotation within the thunderstorm. And so that is what's ongoing there right now. We're going to jump quickly to the velocity scan, and we'll check out exactly where the rotation is. Now, you've heard us say it countless times during the live stream today. We look for a couplet in the velocity. We look for an area of winds going away from the radar and winds going toward the radar that are really close together, and that indicates an area of rotation within the thunderstorm. And sure enough, right around Buffalo here, you can see that there is a pretty strong area of rotation. Let me see if I can point it out. Right in here is where we would expect that area of circulation to be as well. So at this point in time, this tornado is just radar indicated, meaning the National Weather Service has seen this rotation couplet and has said there is a possibility that this severe thunderstorm could produce a tornado, but there is not yet a tornado on the ground. And so that is why we want you to take action now. Again, we want you in the lowest level of your home or business, if you know anyone in that polygon, in an interior room of your home, away from windows. If you're driving on a road, pull over to the nearest gas station, supermarket, Walmart, anywhere where you can get inside and into a sturdy building in order to protect yourself. Put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. So now that we have that down, let's take a closer look at where this storm is headed here within the next few moments. So again, we're going to take one more look here. This storm is moving east at 50 miles per hour, so I plugged that into my fancy little tool here momentarily. And this will give us a good idea of where this storm is headed within the next few minutes or so within this red polygon now on your screen. Lebanon, Missouri, you're under the gun right now for a severe thunderstorm that has the capability to produce a tornado over the next hour here. Lebanon, 8:20 p.m. Your time, that's 9:20 p.m. here on the East Coast in Pennsylvania. If you have any friends, call them up, let them know, hey, you should really seek shelter if you're in this tornado warning polygon. Harold Ford, 8:34 p.m. Winnipeg by 8:45 Central Time, and Waynesville as we approach 9 o'clock Central Time as this tornado-warned thunderstorm continues to make its way eastward here in central Missouri. We're also going to flip to this set of tornado warnings that is now in Oklahoma. You can see this is associated much more with an embedded squall line, meaning there's an area of rotation that's embedded within this particular line of many different thunderstorms. This tornado warning is now in effect until 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 9:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. We're going to jump right now to velocity so you can see that area of rotation. And as Caitlin showed you earlier, it's very pronounced. That line of red and green right along here, that is where we think that this line of thunderstorms is beginning to rotate. So again, this tornado warning is now in effect until 8:30 p.m. for central Washington County as well as Nowata County in Oklahoma. Again, until 8:30. This storm also moving east at 50 miles per hour. We're also going to put a storm tracker on this so you know exactly what to expect over the next hour or so. Nowata. Within the next 15 minutes, that thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado will be in your area. Estella by 8:37 if this thing holds together. Veneta by 8:46. So again, this is a second tornado-warned thunderstorm that we're currently watching. This is in far northeastern Oklahoma, north of the Tulsa metro area. We'll zoom out and we'll give you a better view here of just where we're at. Tulsa is just to the south there and slightly to the west. In fact, we can put a distance marker on it. Downtown Metro Tulsa is about 40 to 50 miles south of where this tornado warning is, just to give you a general idea of where we're looking at. Now, in terms of have we seen anything yet on, Caitlin showed you another product called the correlation coefficient, where you can look and see, is there any debris associated? We haven't seen that yet with any of these storms. And so that's why they're for now what's called radar indicated. We've just seen the rotation on radar, but there's no evidence yet that a tornado is on the ground. And so that's why it's particularly important that we have you take your tornado precautions as soon as possible if you're in these counties here in Oklahoma. Again, Nowata County and Washington County, Central Washington County and Nowata County. If you're there, I need you to take shelter in that lowest level of your home or business in an interior room. You can see it's a pretty nasty squall line as well. I'm going to turn on storm reports here and check out. I can hear you in the control room for those of you that were asking here. Real quick though, I do want to talk a little bit about some of the other reports. There's a report of tree damage with this thunderstorm 1 mile north of a correctional center and a possible tornado as well. So we're not exactly sure what those spotters saw, but it was enough that they said possible tornado associated with some of that strong wind damage there as well. Also reports of hail just to the north of the tornado warning along the Oklahoma-Kansas border. We can go ahead and take a look at some of these reports. Hail of almost 2 inches in diameter, 1.8 inches there. Hail of 1.5 inches there as well, north of Coffeyville. So again, some pretty significant hail, even if you're not within a tornado warning. There's a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings that are currently ongoing, and in fact, I'll zoom out further to show you there's a severe thunderstorm warning, multiple actually, just to the southwest of where those tornado warnings are located, again, until 8:30 p.m. Central Time. I'm going to flip-flop back over to this other tornado warning. This is, remember, the tornado warning that we're looking at in Missouri. We'll kind of go back and forth here. This one, you can see has quite a few hail reports associated with it back behind the storm as it pushed through the area. Again, this hail report, 1.8 inches. This was a report from an MPing spotter of ping pong ball size hail. That's 1.5 inch diameter hail as this storm moved through. So again, the possible tornado isn't the only threat here. It's the threat that I think sometimes we like to talk about the most, Luke, but we can also have all sorts of different threats with these storms, including straight line wind gusts, things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's numerous kinds of threats that can be associated with some of this live radar. I kind of want to look back at what you have pulled up right now in that system. You can see we have a very slight area of that deep red, almost pink area. You can see that's kind of showing some of the heaviest precipitation associated with the system. We haven't really seen that much tonight so far. So definitely want to shout that out and kind of bring attention to it. Now, yeah, you said this is tornado warning. We've had a few of those so far. This is the first moment I'm really seeing some of that deeper red start to show up. So a lot more precipitation and a lot more of the severe weather could occur alongside those conditions.
Right, and as you know, some of those deeper reds could even mean hail as well. And we've seen those hail reports as these storms have pushed through. And so it's really interesting to see those really deep red signatures on radar, because that means some particularly strong rain is moving through there, also hail as well. So definitely not a good situation.
Yeah, absolutely.
You want to make sure that you bring in anything that you might have outside that would be vulnerable to strong wind gusts or hail. If you can, you want to make sure if you have the ability to park under a structure, obviously that would be ideal if you're in this area. But if you're out ahead of this storm and you're wondering, how do I prepare? Make sure you have a place to go if this tornado warning is extended. The lowest level of your home in an interior room, you want to put as many walls between you and the outside as possible. And then as this storm continues to move, you want to keep in mind that even though these tornado warnings may be canceled, there's some very strong straight line wind gusts.
Yeah, absolutely. I also want to bring back to attention what Caitlin said earlier today about, not filming any sort of weather going on. I know for many of the weather junkies out there, you might be inclined to go outside and record some of the phenomenons going on outside. But like Tyler's been mentioning, it's important to very much so be inside of a sheltered structure and to stay to the lowest level with no openings of windows or glass shattering or any sort of debris that is able to make its way inside of your structure. So we implore you to stay inside and to, proceed with caution and not be, tempted to kind of go outside and record some of these high winds or kind of an interesting weather phenomenon that's occurring right now with tornadoes or severe weather.
Right, that's something very important to consider. No photo or image or video is worth more than your life.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Luke. And let's get right back to the radar here. The control room was telling me of a report of some hail that was significantly large. Can you tell me where that was? So he's saying, according to the severe thunderstorm warning of the cell that we're on right now, observed a 2.75 inch diameter hail that was radar indicated. That is some extremely significant hail associated with this storm as well. So that's something to keep in mind. That is a significant threat here. But of course, we do have a tornado warning continuing, ongoing in this area for the next 10 minutes or so. So let's flip back to the velocity and see what we can see. And folks, this storm has weakened over the last maybe hour or so. In fact, we can run it back here. Whoa, I'm going to slow that down a lot, that looping speed. There we go. So when we slow it down, you can see that the couplet was a lot stronger before. We had a lot brighter greens and reds that were close together. That indicated a lot tighter rotation. And as that storm has kind of progressed eastward, that rotation has kind of weakened a bit. So it's important to note that the tornado warning is still in effect. And something that we see very often with these storms is that they cycle, meaning sometimes they can weaken and then strengthen again. And that's why we keep that tornado warning in effect as the storm continues as well. We'll jump back to the live velocity as well. So that's the tornado warning that's ongoing in Missouri at this hour. We're going to jump to the other tornado warning because there is another one that looks like just popped up here north of the Tulsa Metro. So we're going to zoom in on this. This is a new tornado warning until 8:30 p.m. I'm going to pull up the details here really quickly. This tornado warning in effect for southeastern Osage County in northeastern Oklahoma. A thunderstorm capable of producing a tornado was located 6 miles east of Hominy and moving northeast at 60 miles per hour. So these are areas in Oklahoma that have already been under the gun for some severe weather and even tornado warnings within the past hour or two, and they're going to continue to be under another tornado warning as this second cell in the squall line passes through here. So let's again put a storm track right where we think this storm will be headed, and we'll give you a heads up that you are in the path. Avant, 8:21 p.m. Central Time, you will be in the path of this new tornadic supercell, or not supercell, but it's a thunderstorm within a squall line that we're looking at. Ramona, 8:30 p.m. Roughly, you're going to be looking at this possibly tornadic thunderstorm moving through, and then Nowata past 8:49 p.m. Central Time, you're looking at as well for that thunderstorm. So again, this is still what we call a radar-indicated tornado. It's capable of producing a tornado. And you might ask, how do we know that? Well, we look at the velocity product. So let's go ahead and pop up the velocity product here. And this one went right back to the one in Missouri. So we're going to go ahead and move that over. There it goes. And you'll see that there is an area of greens and reds right in the middle here, and I'll point it out on your screen. Right in here is where we're watching the possibility that this thunderstorm could be able to spin up a tornado within the next few minutes. So again, that's just to the east of Hominy, moving through here this morning until 8:30 p.m. For a radar-indicated tornado. That's where those reds and greens are. You're also seeing a pretty significant couplet still in this area as well. Now, you notice this warning is kind of in the middle here until 8:15. The National Weather Service is just going to let that expire because the brunt of the circulation that actually initiated that warning is now off into the second polygon that's off to the east, right? That warning there is in effect until 8:30. So this warning is kind of now stuck in the middle, but the National Weather Service is going to leave it in effect because this second tornado warning is kind of hiding out to the back there. So if you're north of Ramona, if you're between Ramona and Bartlesville right now, and you're thinking you're out of the clear, you're not out of the clear yet. And I want you to stay in your shelter until this second tornado warning moves through, because this storm is also showing some signs of rotation and that it is capable of producing a tornado as well. We're going to jump back to the reflectivity here. I'm also going to turn on storm reports, and we're going to see if there's any storm reports. This one looks like it was a wind damage report. That was the one that we saw earlier, the report of tree damage 1 mile north of the correctional center there, the Dick Connor Correctional Center north of Hominy, the report of the tornado there. There was also a few reports of some wind damage off to the north of these tornado warnings, so I just want to take a look at these really quick. Thunderstorm winds west of Hula, that's along the Oklahoma-Kansas border, as well as wind-blown hail has broken windows, that's around the Caney area as well. So again, these storms are now moving through north central Oklahoma. We'll zoom back out. We'll get a better view of exactly where we are in the map. We're north of Metro Tulsa. So if you're in the Tulsa area, the Tulsa metro area, you're in the clear at this point. In terms of tornadoes, in terms of severe thunderstorms, really, there's not much thunderstorm activity around Metro Tulsa at this hour, and most of these storms are moving to the north and to the east. Now, if you're north of Metro Tulsa, that's where these tornado warnings are something that you may have to worry about. Now, I do want to provide an update real quick to something that we were covering just now within the last few minutes. This tornado warning here that you see on your screen until 8:15, this is slightly outdated. The National Weather Service has let this expire, so there is no longer a tornado warning in effect in Missouri at this hour, just to the northeast of Springfield. That warning has now expired. Yeah, so that warning is out now. You're in the clear. You're still under the gun for potentially some strong wind gusts, large hail, and other factors, severe thunderstorms, and you still want to stay safe from that. But the tornado threat for Missouri is over now. That tornado warning will be expiring. So we're going back to these 3 tornado warnings that are here right now to the north of Metro Tulsa. We're going to zoom back in, and we're going to take a look at some of the reports in here. We do have a tornado report. We do have a tornado report right in here, so I want to get to that right now. The public reported a tornado on the ground southeast of Hominy, Oklahoma. So again, the public reported a tornado on the ground southeast of Hominy. So this has now become a tornado warning that we believe there is a tornado on the ground. So let's put another tracker on this. We are going to show you exactly where the storm, where the public reported a tornado at this point, is now heading. And we're going to show you that right now on the storm track. So let's do that. This is where your center of circulation would be right now, 45 minutes out. Here is where you need to be aware. Avant. Within the next 10 minutes, this thunderstorm that could have a tornado on the ground, according to this public report, you need to seek shelter. Again, you want to be on the lowest level of your home or whatever building you're in an interior room and away from windows until the storm passes. Ramona, 8:30 p.m., and Chelsea by the top of the hour. That's 9 p.m. Central Time, 10 o'clock here on the East Coast. This is a new update, Luke, that we're seeing in here with the reports. Have you been seeing anything at all?
Yeah, I've just been seeing the same updates along the Oklahoma and Kansas border alongside central Missouri. Have really been the places really being most affected within the last hour or so. And these systems are really just expected to be kind of continuing up and along that northeastern track. So I'm thinking that alongside that that kind of grouping between Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri, that little border is really going to be seeing the next kind of brunt of this system. And then alongside, again, northeastern Missouri is going to be kind of making its way up into the rest of the Midwest region as well as these systems kind of develop over the next few hours or so, and again, overnight as well.
Right, as well. And I want to keep zooming out for you to give you a broader sense of where we're talking about, because a lot of times we get caught up about looking at all the details on radar. We want to zoom out and let you know where we're talking about. This is just northeast of the Tulsa metro area, by about 20 or 30 miles, is this tornado warning where the public has reported that there's a tornado on the ground at this hour. We're going to take a look at the velocity data right now, and you can see that there's some rotation in there. And again, I'll point out to you on this radar where exactly the rotation would be. It would be right in here where the reds meet the greens, right in there. And the greens are starting to get brighter, which indicates that when the difference between the red and the green is even more, that could be a sign of stronger rotation and that the storm is beginning to cycle up a little bit, which is definitely not a good sign in terms of this thunderstorm. I also want to check the correlation coefficient quickly and see if we can see anything. This is on the wrong storm. We're going to move this over to the Tulsa storm. That could be a CC lowering right there. And I'll show you exactly what I mean by that. This area right in here could be the result of debris, tree branches, twigs, leaves being lofted up into the air. What this product does is it actually takes the shapes of everything in the atmosphere, all these raindrops and sort of different types of precipitation, and compares it to how similar they are to each other. And so where you're seeing all these red in here, that means that everything is very similar in shape to each other. They're likely just raindrops, maybe some hail, that sort of thing, but they're all pretty similar in shape. But where you see these colors getting lighter, somewhere like in here, that means everything's not necessarily the same shape. You could have some irregularly shaped objects in there. And what could that be? That could be different types of debris, tree branches, twigs, housing shingles coming off your roof, different things like that as well. So we'll keep an eye on this and see if it strengthens. It doesn't look exactly like it's where the center of the rotation, where we expect it to be. So it may just be a false alarm in terms of the correlation coefficient, in terms of the debris ball, but nonetheless, there is still a pretty significant rotation here in this thunderstorm. And I also do want to let you know in the control room that my AirPod died, so I cannot hear anything you say anymore. So if you want to shoot me a text, that would be great in the control room. Thank you so much. But again, this is the main tornado warning that we're on right now. It expires at 8:30, and it is in effect for southeastern Osage County in northeastern Oklahoma. Storm moving northeast at 60 miles an hour, which is a pretty good clip. Barnsdall, Hominy, Avant are all within the polygon for this storm as well. And we're waiting to receive another update on the storm. Again, this tornado warning now set to expire within the next 15 minutes or so. And this is the one that had a report, again, if we turn on the storm reports, this is the one that had a public reported tornado on the ground southeast of Hominy. Now again, these storms tend to cycle. This tornado may have been on the ground for 30 seconds or a minute, or, it could still be on the ground. But at this point, it's hard to tell in terms of that until we have more reports. These storms, again, can cycle and that sort of thing. So before we toss it over to Filippo Formica with a look at tomorrow's forecast, I want to zoom out. I want to show you the warnings that are still in effect right now. What do we have going on? We have 2 tornado warnings in northeastern Oklahoma that are in effect until the bottom of the hour, 8:30 p.m. Central Time, 9:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. This tornado warning here is for, you can pull this up really quickly, portions of southeastern Osage County, and this tornado warning, the one in the upper kind of right-hand corner of your screen, is for central Nowata County. Both of these remain in effect until 8:30. So if you're within one of these polygons, we really encourage you to seek shelter as soon as you can. All right, we're going to go ahead and turn it over to Filippo Formica. The threat for severe weather is in the Midwest today, but it could move up into the Ohio Valley within the next 24 hours. He has more on that.
Thanks, Tyler. Yes, we're looking at another round of severe storms again tomorrow. The same low pressure system that's been producing those storms all evening here in Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri, even portions of northern Arkansas later this evening will be moving into the Ohio River Valley, where a moderate risk, a level 4 out of 5 risk, has already been issued for a day 2 outlook. That is not very often we see something like this for most of Ohio, maybe some portions of northern Kentucky, portions of West Virginia as well. We have an enhanced risk spanning from northern Alabama all the way up to the Great Lakes, with Lake Erie here an enhanced risk. That's a level 3 out of 5 there. Even some storminess in western Pennsylvania, that enhanced risk just near Pittsburgh. A slight risk definitely going to be covering Pittsburgh here as we look to those storms closer to home. State College just on the border here with a marginal risk. That's a level 1 out of 5. So let's go through and break this down. So we have our tornado outlook here. This is going to be the main threat here. You can see a 15 to 30% risk of tornadoes in that main target area, that moderate risk area in Ohio, portions of Indiana, Kentucky, and West Virginia. We have a 10 to 15% risk in that enhanced risk area from northern Alabama up to the Great Lakes. And a significant severe threat, again, that is tornadoes that are capable of being EF2 or greater from the very northern portion of Alabama up to Lake Erie yet again. So a larger area that is going to be at risk of severe storms tomorrow. Here's our hail outlook. We have a significant severe threat in portions of Ohio, 30 to 45% risk in those areas of that enhanced risk, that significant severe threat for that moderate risk area. Closer home, we could see some hailstones falling, especially in the southwestern portion of the Commonwealth here. And for our wind outlook, again, another significant severe threat in those areas of Ohio. But we do have this 30 to 45% risk area of seeing those severe thunderstorm strength winds, that is 58 miles an hour or greater from northern Alabama up to Lake Erie. That significant severe threat is where you could be seeing significant wind damage from these storms. So as we run through here, we are going to be seeing our storminess from tonight start to move into Ohio here. Now, this is not the main event. This is just a precursor to what we're going to be seeing later in the evening hours. Some heavier precipitation. This is at 8 a.m. This is before some convection can start in portions of Ohio. So we're going to be looking at some storms starting to form here in Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, and starting to move through as a strong line of thunderstorms moves through this area. And we could even see that strong line of thunderstorms make its way into the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, spreading heavy rain and maybe even some hail and strong winds, especially in the western portion of the state. So again, another day to look out for severe weather here, now moving into the eastern U.S. And with that, I'll kick it back to Tyler and Luke.
All right, thank you so much, Filippo. And as we wrap up the show, I just want to provide an update on one tornado warning that we were following a little bit earlier in the show, the one that was around Hominy, Oklahoma, that had a possible report, a public report of a tornado. That tornado warning has since been canceled now. So there is no threat of a tornado in that area at this time. The only tornado warning that's left was the one in far northeastern Oklahoma that is still set to expire at 8:30, Luke.
Yeah, absolutely. So while we are ending this live stream, the weather does not stop ever after this live stream. So make sure to still continue to be aware these tornado warnings and severe thunderstorm warnings are going to be continuing to go into effect over the next few hours or so, especially overnight into these later hours of the day. So make sure to stay aware and stay alert of what could potentially be going on, and continue checking the radar and checking the National Weather Service and other trusted sources locally for some more weather outlooks and severe weather precautions on what to do looking forward into this.
Right. We'd like to thank you so much for joining this live broadcast of the Campus Weather Service. Please stay safe within the next few days. If you know anybody in any of the affected areas, they're obviously remaining within our thoughts and prayers, and we hope that none of these storms produce damage that is too serious. But for now, from all of us here in the Campus Weather Service, I'm Tyler Hughes.
And I'm Luke Snyder.
Have a great evening.